Welcome back to our Malicious Compliance, where following the rules a little too literally usually ends with someone in authority regretting everything. Today's story. It's about a boss who thought telling someone to stop working would be a proper punishment. What could possibly go wrong? Right. Spoiler alert, everything. And it's glorious. This story comes from someone who was way too competent for their own good and had a manager who didn't quite understand the difference between being in charge and being right. The situation slowly builds from standard workplace annoyance to full-on workplace chaos, all thanks to one petty command delivered in a moment of ego. So buckle up, because if you've ever wanted to see a boss completely outwit himself by underestimating his best employee, this story is going to scratch that itch in the most satisfying way possible. Malicious compliance mode. Activated. I used to work as a facilities tech for a mid-sized manufacturing company. My job was basically to keep everything running: systems, plumbing, minor electrical repairs, conveyor belts, even building maintenance. If it broke, I fixed it. No task was too weird or too messy. I didn't mind the work, and I actually liked the hands-on stuff. Plus, I was fast, careful, and knew what I was doing. 10 years in the trade will do that now. The company culture, not so great. Management was all about control. Everything was tracked, timed, and reviewed. They didn't say thank you when you worked overtime. They asked why it took you so long. And as for the leadership, let's just say they promoted people based more on who they knew than what they knew. Enter Gary, my direct supervisor. Gary was the kind of guy who loved reminding everyone that he was in charge, even though he barely understood the equipment we maintained. He always had a clipboard in hand, mostly for show, and he'd spend more time micromanaging than letting us actually solve problems. He hated when people worked independently, especially if they made him look out of the loop. Despite all that, I did my job quietly, efficiently, until Gary made a decision so dumb it handed me the perfect opportunity to show him what happens when the guy holding the company together is told to sit down and do nothing most days. I started before anyone else. I'd do a walkthrough of the facility, checking for any unusual sounds, leaks, or blinking error lights on the machines. While everyone else was still brewing their coffee, I'd already be tightening a loose belt on line 3 or swapping out a failing relay. I wasn't just keeping things running, I was keeping the place from catching fire. Sometimes literally, if the air compressor hiccuped, I knew exactly how to reset it. If the drain in the employee restroom backed up again, I was the one with gloves on, fixing it before it caused a flood. I even helped it rewire their server room once when their usual tech was out sick. I didn't complain. I didn't clock. I just solved problems quietly. People came to me before they called the front office because they knew I'd actually fix it. Production supervisors trusted me, engineers thanked me, maintenance requests slowed to a trickle because I was so proactive that got to the point where a 15-minute delay anywhere on the floor would have managers radioing "Where's me?" In short, I wasn't just doing my job. I was holding the whole place together with duct tape, wrenches, and common sense, and management didn't even realize it. The turning point came one Thursday afternoon. I had just replaced a faulty solenoid valve on one of the bottling lines. It was a common issue and I'd fixed it before anyone even needed to log a ticket. As I was packing up my tools, Gary marched over, holding his clipboard like it was a badge of honor. "I didn't approve that repair," he said, standing square in front of me. "It didn't need approval. If I hadn't fixed it, line B would have been down another hour." "That's not the point," he snapped. "We have procedures. You don't just do whatever you feel like." I paused. "You'd rather I leave production hanging just so I can fill out paperwork first?" Gary's eyes narrowed. "I'm the supervisor. You follow my process or you don't work at all." It wasn't about the fix, it was about control. Gary didn't like that I knew more than he did. He hated that people came to me for answers, and deep down, he knew the crew respected me more than they respected him. He wanted to re-establish the chain of command, and like most bad managers, instead of stepping up his game, he decided to make mine harder. He walked off that day without saying another word, but the tension, oh, it was boiling just under the surface. I had a feeling he'd pull something soon. I just didn't know how dumb it would be. A few days later, things came to a head. Gary found me mid-repair on the main conveyor belt, the one that moves finished products to shipping. The belt had been making a grinding noise all morning, slowing production. I was halfway through replacing a worn-out roller. Without warning, Gary cut in, voice sharp and frustrated. "Stop. Just stop working on that right now." I blinked. "Excuse me, stop fixing the conveyor. It's wasting company time." I raised an eyebrow, letting the silence hang for a moment. "Are you sure?" He nodded curtly like a king giving an order. I said, "Stop, you're done." The room felt suddenly colder. No explanations, no backup plan, just a flat command to do nothing. I was caught between disbelief and disbelief. Was he seriously telling me to just let the machine break on the busiest day of the week? But the rules were the rules, so I packed up my tools. I walked away from the conveyor, and from that moment on, I stopped working on it, because when your boss orders you to stop working, how do you argue with that? Malicious compliance. Here, we come. At first, it was almost surreal. The conveyor continued grinding, slowly but surely getting worse. I watched from across the room as the rollers squeaked and clattered, a harsh metallic rhythm that sent a chill down my spine. The belt slowed to a crawl and then nothing. It stopped. Production came to a screeching halt. Managers started rushing, in eyes-wide radios crackling with frantic calls. Where's the fix? Why's the belt down? The warehouse floor turned into chaos. Forklift drivers idled, workers stared at their stations, and shipping deadlines slipped away like sand through fingers. Emails flooded the inbox, complaints from clients expecting shipments, urgent requests from the sales department, and panicked calls from upper management demanding answers. Gary looked around, confused and flushed. He tried to bark orders, but without the conveyor running, nothing moved. Meanwhile, I sat quietly at my desk watching the chaos like a calm storm. No calls for help, no frantic tool grabbing, just silence from me. Everyone expected me to jump in to fix the disaster I was told to ignore, but I didn't. I was curious, how bad would it really get? How many fingers would point? How long before the higher-ups noticed that everything stopped the moment I stopped working? The tension in the air thickened. The answer was coming. As hours dragged on, Gary's frustration morphed into panic. He barked orders at the floor supervisors demanding someone fix the conveyor. Get a tech down here. Call maintenance. Do something. But no one could override the halt without my permission. The backup plan, a manual workaround which slowed shipping to a crawl and created bottlenecks everywhere else. Clients began emailing directly to upper management, upset about missed deadlines and delayed deliveries. Gary's face turned red with every call, every complaint, every frustrated shout on the radio. He stormed into the break room, slamming his clipboard down. How could this happen? Why didn't anyone fix it? He tried calling me, but I wasn't answering. I was following his orders after all stopped working. Right. Finally, in desperation, Gary stomped over to me. Fix it, now. I looked up slowly. Expression.com. I was told to stop working on it. His jaw clenched. That was before everything went to hell. Now get moving. But the damage was done. The higher-ups were already involved. Emails from corporate legal were circulating. Gary's meltdown was the talk of the office. He'd lost control, and there was no turning back. I leaned back in my chair and smiled. Oh, now you want me to fix it? Gary blinked, speechless. The same man who ordered me to stop working was now begging for help, without missing a beat. I grabbed my tools and walked toward the conveyor. Slow and deliberate, no rush. I carefully inspected the belt, replaced the faulty rollers, lubricated the gears, and tested every motor. The line hummed back to life, smooth and steady, like clockwork. Looks like the problem's solved, I said coolly, wiping my hands. Might want to let me handle this stuff going forward. Gary opened his mouth to argue but closed it quickly. No words came out. The room seemed to breathe easier as production resumed. The message was clear. Don't mess with the person keeping the wheels turning, especially when you want results. The aftermath was messy. Upper management demanded a full report. Gary tried to shift blame, insisting the delay was due to unforeseen technical issues, not his poor decision. But I was ready. Emails, text messages, and even a voice memo where Gary explicitly told me to stop working on the conveyor surfaced. Witnesses backed me up, including several co-workers who'd seen the entire meltdown unfold. The higher-ups weren't amused. Gary was put on probation, and an official reprimand was added to his file. The team, they rallied around me, grateful for standing firm and showing the cost of bad management. The company made a rare public acknowledgement, praising the resilience and dedication of the floor staff. And me, I quietly went back to work, knowing I'd won the battle with nothing but a wrench, a calm mind, and a little malicious compliance. After the dust settled, Gary's world shifted dramatically. The higher-ups didn't take his meltdown lightly. Within a month he was reassigned to a less critical department far from the fast-paced production floor he once controlled. His reputation took a hit, with whispers of his poor leadership following him like a shadow. Meanwhile, I quietly received recognition. Not a flashy award, but a nod from senior management, a raise, and even a chance to lead a small team. Respect from my co-workers grew to fully. My efforts were seen for what they truly were. There was a quiet satisfaction in the "I told you so" moments shared over coffee breaks, not out loud, but in knowing glances and smirks. Sometimes, letting someone learn the hard way is the best lesson of all. Looking back, the experience was a harsh but valuable lesson. It reinforced how important it is to treat workers with respect and trust. When management resorts to micromanagement and power trips, it doesn't inspire loyalty, it breeds chaos. I learned that following orders to the letter can be a double-edged sword, especially when those orders are unreasonable. So here's the moral: if you don't value your workers, don't be surprised when everything falls apart literally. Sometimes the best way to show someone the consequences of their actions is to play by their rules. Thanks for tuning in to this wild ride. On our Maliciouscompliance got a story where following orders exactly as told backfired spectacularly. Drop it in the comments. I'd love hearing your experiences. If you enjoyed this, stick around for more tales of sly revenge and workplace justice. Until next time, Remember, sometimes the best compliance is a little malicious. See you in the next story.